Hi, can you see me now? Good. Do you have any questions for me? Go ahead and ask them. What is the nature of engagement that you seek or demand from distant submissives who may not always be able to serve in person? What is the nature of engagement? Well, I'm quite open to a lot of different possibilities. I started you'llpleaseme.com to offer an opportunity for people who don't get to meet me in person, a little bit more of an insight to who I am. And where they want to take it is in their hands from the get-go. And how they gain my attention or prove themselves to me is with how they interact with the site. And as that increases, I increase my interaction with them, basically. What do I end up seeking or demanding from them? It really depends person to person and dynamic to dynamic. I'm quite satisfied sometimes with people just completing the slave tasks and tweeting them. That gives me a lot of joy each day to see that happen. Or, you know, some people end up living with me and serving me constantly. So there's a huge range of possibilities in between that, and there's nothing that I have to have. I'm quite satisfied in a lot of aspects, and so I'm open to seeing what each different dynamic can present. And then a second question, how often do you interact with your most loyal ones, and how intimately do you control or own aspects of their lives? My most loyal ones, every day. Unless I really need my space, which actually happens less these days. So yes, there's at least a little bit of a connection every day. I share the island, Bali, with a few. And how intimately do I control or own aspects of their lives? Again, from person to person, it's quite different. There's a couple who they're together and they mostly are service oriented, and I let them handle their affairs to themselves. But I also have one person who I own everything and shares in their company, and my home is funded by them, and everything is, yeah, I own everything. So did that answer your question? Do you have any other questions for me? What kind of ownership do I enjoy most? That's a good question. I do get a lot of joy out of full submission, so to speak. So that's being able to dictate every area, not necessarily every moment, but every area. It does give me a thrill to have that much of an oversight and control over someone else. It's like a little puppet. Yeah, but I think ownership is not necessarily those things that are top of the list for me. I think when it comes to ownership, it's more that I intimately understand somebody. I think that's probably what is most important to me when it comes to enjoying any exchange in any capacity on the varying scales of how ownership can look. I think really starting to understand somebody and be able to make choices for them or for me or for us that are intimately aware and good. Yeah, I think that's probably the highlight of ownership for me. Yeah. Making everything better for everybody involved. Does that make sense? I don't know what kind of ownership you might call that. What kind of gifts are an absolute delight to receive from your submissives? Absolute delight. Well, I do have a wish list inside youwillpleaseme.com that makes things very straightforward, but I think what really gives me a delight is probably when people are paying attention. And this goes back to what I was saying about ownership. Really, for me to understand somebody, it goes the other way as well. And sure, there are things on my wish list, and I can be very clear with things that I do want. But I think what I really notice and appreciate is consistency. That's probably number one. And then number two is paying attention to the things that I enjoy. So that could just be picking up on something that I said and giving me something associated with that. Or, for example, this house, I just mentioned that I wanted to be totally off, but yet still accessible to the airport and this kind of thing. And I wanted green. I didn't want to see anybody else. And like, I think a month later, it was found for me exactly to specifications. I didn't even say that I wanted it right then and there and that I needed it, but it was taken notice of and somebody made it happen. And that doesn't have to be a house, it can be anything. But I really appreciate the process that somebody is paying that kind of attention to me and following on from that as well. Yeah. And I guess that's not necessarily only physical gifts, but in terms of protocol or behavior, I very much appreciate things actually sticking. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. Oh. Did you have any other questions for me today? Something maybe that you would have been scared to ask me if you were on video as well. Sure. A few fun questions. All right. Let's give this a go. I'll let you know if I don't like them. All right, so I only have three options. Feet, eyes, or bottom. What do you enjoy your boys obsessing most over? Only boys? That's not fair. Feet, eyes, or bottom? This one's really hard. Don't get me wrong. bottoms are very important, but I think it would have to be either feet or eyes, because I can still utilize that if I'm sitting or standing or at any point in time. I think it's a lot more useful if somebody is very much attached to those. Does that make sense? Black, white, red. What is your choice of color when dressing to kill? Oh, it would depend on the situation, I think. If I understand that there's going to be a lot of black, or if there's going to be a lot of dark atmosphere, then white works really well. You have to think about the context. There's a whole scene. Yeah. Some cuts look really a lot better in black. They're just sharper, and so therefore it'll make more of an impact if it's in black. I mean, red always captures attention, but it can also get lost. So it's, yeah. I didn't choose, did I? I didn't choose, but now you know my intimate tips and tricks on colors. Do you have any others? What is the one kink that makes you absolutely love doing this? Well, I think I have. Well, I think the core of it is that I'm really lucky to have a kink for DS exchange. You know, just the fact that somebody submits is like gold already. So that's probably very lucky for me, or the whole reason why I do it. Just the fact that somebody is submissive, and or submitting to me is a beautiful thing in and of itself, and regardless of other things that are happening. So yeah, I'll go with that one. But maybe, yeah, okay. You can ask another question, and I'll also think about how to add to that. I think probably a number 2 thing would be protocol, and not in the sense of the word where it's like it's crawling, which is also part of it, but it's just the understanding that there are certain ways to do things, and in order to respect me and to submit the way that I wish, in an ideal situation. And so, and that can be in anything, right? That can be in how somebody pours me a drink, or in how somebody paying attention to the order of the way that things are put down on the table, and how to serve me first, or, you know, just little things like that. They also make my heart like so happy. So that would probably be a second kink. That's a little bit different to your maybe norms of sadism, etc. But I think those are the things that make it so enjoyable for me in my role. One last question. Oh, I answered it already. What's the second? Okay. One last one. Another one. Where do you draw the line when it comes to submissives doing things as part of servitude? Where do you draw the line when it comes to submissives doing things as part of servitude? Can you clarify that? So, as in what they should not be doing? Ever? Sort of. Where do you draw the line when it comes to submissives doing things as part of servitude? Okay, so how I interpret that is what is totally out of bounds in terms of what I want done for me. Is that more what you mean? So what I don't want done for me. I'm quite happy for everything to be done for me as long as I said so. Okay. For example, say a guy gets a vasectomy for you, just thinking out loud. I wouldn't see a problem with that if I wanted it and that it had been a proper conversation about long-term effects for everybody involved. I I would draw the line at taking their life or that of another, which is probably a common line for many. But actually, that brings me to something like, I guess in terms of consent is very important to me, as it is in so many people in this in this part of life in kink. And so it obviously the harming somebody else or harming themselves, I draw a line at that. But also, I have very careful conversations when it comes to, let's say, family members of my submissives who don't necessarily know what they're doing with me or that they have an interest in kink at all. It's really about understanding what their responsibilities are before they ever approached me in their vanilla life. And I never compromise that unless, I don't think it's compromising unless it's something that's going to be hurting them or somebody else. Then I'll say something. But otherwise, that's probably something that I find that I tread carefully around, because it comes back to the consent thing. I don't want to involve somebody else unknowingly, if that makes sense. Yeah. Does that make sense to you? A vasectomy is totally fine if it's been well discussed. Thank you. That looks stunning. That's very sweet. Thank you so much for chatting with me. It was really wonderful to trial this first Q&A with you. And I really look forward to being able to do this on my site more regularly. Thank you. Would you like to say goodbye? No. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. Until next time. Thank you very much. Bye.